This is the True Crime Nation podcast with your hosts, Todd and Brian. If you're enjoying the show or have suggestions for future shows, you can email us at truecrimenation@outlook.com. And as always, let's start the show. All right. This is Brian. That's Todd. And tonight we have a very interesting show. What we got going on tonight, Todd?
You know, an episode ago or so, we were talking about different serial killers, whatnot was going on. And one of the names popped up was the dating game killer.
The dating game killer, I remember.
And we thought, you know what, that's interesting. Let's do a show on this guy. I mean, who would have thought that you could go on a game show and get killed by a serial killer?
Right? Yeah, I would have never. I would have never thought that in a million years.
So as you know, we're going to talk about.
Think they screen their people a little better.
You would think, but you would think, yeah. You would, again, you know, back in the 70s, what was it, 70s, 80s maybe?
Yeah, 70s.
So yeah, as you know, we're going to talk about Rodney James Alcala and see what kind of sickness and demented shit that he got into.
Why do serial killers always have three names?
Well, we all have three names generally, but
I know, but they don't use them all the time. I mean, I don't say your name, blah, 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 or my name,
right.
blah, blah, blah.
Maybe it's because there could be another Rodney Alcala out there, but his middle name might be Jeffrey, and it's not the same guy. I don't know.
True. That's true.
Or to make it to make it sound more serial killerish, they use three names, I guess. It works either way. Does it not? It works either way for me.
Sure. Yep.
All right. So what do you know about this?
More criminally.
Right.
Rodney
so what do you know
James
about
Alcala,
this guy?
Born August 23rd, 1943, July 24th, 2020. Must be dead, huh?
It looks like he just died a year ago, year and a half ago.
Dubbed the dating game killer, was an American serial killer and sex offender who was sentenced to death in California for 5 murders committed in the state between 77 and 79, and received an additional sentence of 25 years to life after pleading guilty to 2 homicides committed in New York in 1971 and 1977. While he has been conclusively linked to 8 murders, Alcala's true number of victims remains unknown and could be much higher. Authorities believe the actual number is as high as 130.
Wow.
Jesus.
Okay.
Man. Bring him and that last guy we talked about. Holy crap.
So I'm guessing after he committed the New York murder in 77, he took off and went to California and he did one. That's where he started doing it. Yeah. He got the hell out of Dodge.
Yep. He's like, oh, I go to New York. I'm going to go where the sun is shining.
Let's go kill some people out west.
Alcala compiled a collection of more than 1,000 photographs of women, teenage girls, and boys, many in sexually explicit poses. In 2016, he was charged with the 1977 murder of a woman identified in one of his photos. Alcala is known to have assaulted one other photographic subject, and police have speculated that others could be rape or murder victims as well. Prosecutors have said that Alcala toyed with his victims, strangling them until they lost consciousness, then waiting until they revived, sometimes repeating this process several times before finally killing them. One police detective described Alcala as a killing machine, and others have compared him to Ted Bundy. Alcala is often referred to as the dating game killer because of his 1978 appearance on the television show. So he tortured him basically before he killed him.
These guys, it all comes down to bondage and sex most of the time with these serial killers that we're talking about, it seems.
Yeah.
It's a strong motive for them.
That's the common theme, yeah.
You know.
And really don't like women.
No. No. And I don't know, did he end up winning that dating game? And he did. He had to have. I think that's what happened, right? He wins the date and he kills the girl. Is that what happens? I don't. I'm not.
Uh,
I'm not completely sure. I guess we'll have
I
to read
don't
on and see.
think he won. I don't think he did. Yeah, well, we'll get to that though. Early criminal history. Alcala committed his first. Oh wait, sorry. Well, I skipped the whole section.
Yep.
Early life. Rodney Alcala was born in San Antonio, Texas, to a Mexican American couple, Raul Alcala Bacur and Ana Marie Gutierrez. In 1951, Alcala's father moved the family to Mexico, then abandoned them 3 years later. In 1954, when Alcala was about 11 years old, his mother moved him and his two sisters to suburban Los Angeles. In 1961, at the age of 17, Alcala joined the United States Army and served as a clerk. In 1964, after what was described as a nervous breakdown, during which he went AWOL and hitchhiked from Fort Bragg to his mother's house, he was diagnosed with antisocial personality disorder by a military psychiatrist and discharged on medical grounds. Well, there you go. After leaving the Army, Alcala graduated from the UCLA School of Fine Arts and later studied film under Roman Polanski at New York University. Wow. That's another thing
Interesting.
all these killers have in common is they're brilliant. They're
Yeah.
genius level,
Yeah. Theatrical, what have you.
but they also have some kind of
Disconnect.
quirk, some kind of like this one, an antisocial personality disorder.
Yeah, I was thinking about that. What is it that gets in these people's
Mhm.
heads that makes them want to do this?
Yep. Well, maybe we're going to find out a little bit. All right. Early criminal history. Alcala committed his first known crime on September 25th, 1968, when an eyewitness in Los Angeles called police after watching him lure an 8-year-old girl named Tally Shapiro into his Hollywood apartment. When the police arrived, the girl was found alive, having been raped and beaten with a steel bar. But Alcala had fled. To evade the resulting arrest warrant, Alcala left the state and enrolled in the NYU Film School using his name, John Berger. In 1971, he obtained a counselor job at a New Hampshire arts camp for children using a slightly different alias, John Berger. Just spelled it different. In June 1971, Cornelia Michael Criley, a 23-year-old TWA flight attendant, was found raped and strangled in her Manhattan apartment. Her murder remained unsolved until 2011. The FBI added Alcala to its list of 10 most wanted fugitives in early 1971. A few months later, two children attending the arts camp noticed the photo on an FBI poster at the post office. Alcala was arrested and extradited to California. By then, Shapiro's parents had relocated their entire family to Mexico and refused to allow her to testify at Alcala's trial. Since the authorities were unwilling to charge him with rape and attempted murder without their primary witness, Alcala was convicted of child molestation and sentenced to 3 years.
Oh. So he did jump back and forth from California to New York, it looks like.
Yep. Yep. He was a rolling stone.
And he was on the 10 most wanted fugitives in 1971.
Yeah.
But he's committed murders in 1977. So they've been looking for this guy that long, and he still was getting away with murder.
Yeah. Still getting away with murder.
Huh. Interesting.
It's amazing. Alcala was paroled in 1974 after 17 months. Less than 2 months after his release, he was rearrested for assaulting a 13-year-old girl identified in court records as Julie J., who had accepted what she thought would be a ride to school. Alcala was again paroled after serving 2 years. After Alcala's second release in 1977, his Los Angeles parole officer took the unusual step of permitting a repeat offender and known flight risk to travel to New York City. NYPD cold case investigators now believe that a week after arriving in Manhattan, Alcala killed Ellen Jane Hover, 23-year-old daughter of Herman Hover, the owner of the popular Hollywood nightclub Ciro's. Kairos?
Zeros.
Hmm. And goddaughter of Dean Martin and Sammy Davis Jr. Holy smokes. Her remains were found buried under heavy rocks on a hillside overlooking the Hudson River, about half a mile west of the Phelps Memorial Hospital in North Tarrytown in Westchester County.
So I'm guessing Dean Martin and Sammy Davis Jr. both died before they found out that this guy killed their goddaughter.
No,
because they're kind of like involved. Back in the day, weren't they kind of like involved with the mob a little bit secretly? Those guys. I mean, or I don't know,
I
maybe
don't think
not.
it was very secretly.
So they kind of knew the mob, right? They were kind of in with
Yeah,
some.
I think, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So why didn't they just have this guy knocked off?
Again, like you said, it was probably, well, they didn't,
They didn't know who it was at the time, but
yeah,
did they die before they found out?
I don't think he probably did. No, because Dean Martin died, what,
Those guys
30
have been
years?
dead for a long time. Dean Martin, Sammy
Uh,
Davis Jr., they've been dead.
not
Man,
that
they've
long.
got to been dead for 10,
Mm-mm.
15 years, right?
Yeah, probably.
We're
Isn't that long?
speculating. We're speculating. But anyway.
Absolutely. That's what we do on this show.
Just something to think about.
We're just kicking it around. Yeah, get people's minds
Thinking outside the
working.
box, keeping the
Right.
door open. Everything matters.
That's right. Everything matters. That's right. You can't take anything for granted in the world of crime.
No.
In 1978, Alcala worked briefly at the Los Angeles Times as a typesetter and was interviewed by members of the Hillside Stranglers Task Force as part of their investigation of known sex offenders. Although Alcala was ruled out as the Hillside Strangler, he was arrested and served a brief sentence for marijuana possession. During this period, Alcala convinced hundreds of young men and women that he was a professional fashion photographer and photographed them for his portfolio. A Times co-worker later recalled that Alcala shared his photos with workmates. I thought it was weird, but I was young. I didn't know anything, she said. When I asked why he took the photos, he said their moms asked him to. I remember the girls were naked. I don't think their moms would have asked him to do that.
Right. Here, stranger, would you take a picture of my naked daughter for me,
Take
please?
a picture of my naked underage daughter. I don't think so. He said he was a professional, so in my mind, I was being a model for him, said a woman who allowed Alcala to photograph her in 1979. The portfolio also included spread after spread of naked teenage boys, she said. Most of the photos are sexually explicit, and most of the subjects remain unidentified. Police fear that some of the subjects may be additional cold case victims. In 1979, according to later trial testimony, Alcala knocked unconscious and raped 15-year-old Monique Hoyt while she was posing for photographs. So he didn't care. Male or female, he didn't care.
Nope. He was a sick son of a bitch.
Yep.
Just like Jeffrey Dahmer would do his victims. He would take pictures. He would photograph them. Hey, I'm a photographer.
Mm-hmm.
Come and I'll take pictures.
Wasn't that
And
most of them?
a lot of
Most
them
of
did
them
that,
pull
right?
that one.
They use that one. Yeah, I'm a photographer.
Yeah.
You want to be a model? Oh yeah, make people
Mm-hmm.
feel important.
Yep. Exactly. All right, here we go.
Sneaky
The dating
bastards.
game appearance.
Mm.
In 1978, Alcala was a contestant on the popular game show The Dating Game. Host Jim Lang introduced him as a successful photographer who got his start when his father found him in the darkroom at the age of 13. Fully developed. Let me do that over.
Okay.
Host Jim Lang introduced him as a successful photographer who got his start when his father found him in the darkroom at the age of 13, fully developed. Between the takes, you might find him skydiving or motorcycling.
Well. How charming.
Sounds like a great guy. A fellow Bachelor contestant later described Alcala as a very strange guy with bizarre opinions. Alcala won the competition and a date with the episode's bachelorette, Sarah Bradshaw, who subsequently refused to go out with him because she found him creepy. Criminal profiler Pat Brown, noting that Alcala killed at least 3 women after his dating game appearance, speculated that this rejection might have been an exacerbating factor. You think? One wonders what that did in his mind, Brown said. That is something he would not take too well. Psychopaths don't understand the rejection. They think that something is wrong with that girl. She played me. She played hard to get. She wanted to live.
Okay, so she turned him down. I wonder. I wonder how that goes. I mean, after the game, they get together and they talk. Do they get to talk for a little bit before a final decision is made, or she just said, "This guy's." She must have just. I mean, she picked him, right? But then she backed out.
Yeah. Yeah.
They
Well,
must have said some
they must
things.
have had to let him have a conversation.
Yeah, must have been talking a little bit, and she probably thought this guy's creepy as
Mm-hmm.
hell.
Yeah. If you look at that mugshot, it is creepy.
He looks creepy. He looks like
Mm-hmm.
a Hispanic version of Michael Myers mask.
Yeah. Yeah. No expression at all. Just a. Yeah. All right. So we know now that he did win, but she said no.
Thank God for her, right? Good for
Yeah,
her.
right.
She's
Thank God
alive
she
this
wised up.
day. She wouldn't be alive if she did.
That's right. The Samso murder, arrest, and first 2 trials. Alcala, after being that's the picture. Alcala after being sentenced to death for Samso's murder. Man, we got it. Yeah, we'll put that. We'll get a better picture of that mugshot and put it out there so you guys see what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Robin Samso, a 12-year-old girl from Huntington Beach, disappeared somewhere between the beach and her ballet class on June 20th, 1979. Her decomposing body was found 12 days later in the Los Angeles foothills. Samso's friend told police that a stranger had approached them on the beach, asking to take their pictures. Detectives circulated a sketch of the photographer, and Alcala's parole officer recognized him. During a search of Alcala's mother's house in Monterey Park, police found a rental receipt for a storage locker in Seattle. In the locker, they found Samso's earrings.
Wow.
Wow, in Seattle. This guy was everywhere.
Yeah, he was. Not very smart, though.
No.
We always say that the serial killers that keep victims, they keep their victims or souvenirs from their victims. That's
Right.
what ended up getting them caught.
Yep. Alcala
So,
was
note to
arrested
you
in
serial
July.
killers out there, don't take any.
Yeah,
Sorry.
but that's what they do, though. I mean, that's
Yeah.
what they
Those,
do.
those pinpointed him right to her.
Like even Dexter kept the blood, little bits of blood, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just something they do. I don't know. Alcala was arrested in July 1979 and held without bail. In 1980, he was tried, convicted, and sentenced to death for Samso's murder. But the verdict was overturned by the California Supreme Court because the jurors had been improperly informed of his prior sex crimes. In 1986, after a second trial, virtually identical to the first except for omission of the prior criminal record testimony, he was again convicted and sentenced to death. In 2001, a Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals panel nullified the second conviction, in part because a witness was not allowed to support Alcala's contention that the park ranger who found Samso's body had been hypnotized by police investigators.
Oh,
What?
jeez. So they're saying that he got out of the death convicts the second time because there was something about a witness supporting that someone was saying the park ranger was hypnotized, talking about finding the body. Some kind of stupid little game and loophole they played. It appears.
Fucking California.
Yeah.
The Ninth Circus Court of Appeals, that's what it's called. Additional victims. While preparing their third prosecution in 2003, Orange County, California investigators learned that Alcala's DNA, sampled under a new state law over his objections, matched semen left at the rape murder scenes of two women in Los Angeles. Additional evidence, including another cold case DNA match in 2004, led to Alcala's indictment for the murder of four additional women. Jill Barkham, 18, a New York runaway, found rolled up like a ball in Los Angeles ravine in 1977, and originally thought to have been a victim of the Hillside Strangler. Georgia Wixt, 27, bludgeoned in her Malibu apartment in 1977. Charlotte Lamb, 31, raped, strangled, and left in the laundry room of an El Segundo apartment complex in 1978. And Jill Parenteau, 21, killed in her Burbank apartment in 1979.
This guy was busy
You know, and the
and all
first
over the
time,
place.
what was that, 2003? The first time they used DNA,
Mhm.
the first thing going through his head was, oh, here comes the rest of them. Because
I'm in big
now they can
trouble.
find them all.
Oh yeah, this guy was terrible. They don't talk about him that much, like you hear like the Ted Bundys and stuff. But this guy was terrible.
Yeah,
And he was doing his thing the same time the Hillside Strangler was doing his thing, and they were both strangling their victims. So yeah, I can see it. Hard
yeah,
to wonder if it wasn't one person or more than one person. So
right.
maybe he was doing that on purpose to try to disguise his,
Maybe he took advantage of that. That's a good point. All of
because
the
he didn't
bodies were
strangle.
found.
Did he strangle
Did he
every
what?
one of them? I don't think he strangled every single one of them. He bludgeoned one of them, right? Yeah. So
Yeah, most of them were strangled though.
yes.
All of the bodies were found posed in carefully chosen positions. Another pair of earrings found in Alcala's Seattle storage locker had residue that matched Lamb's DNA. During his incarceration between the second and third trials, Alcala wrote and self-published a book, You, the Jury, in which he claimed innocence in the Samso case and suggested a different suspect. He also filed two lawsuits against the California penal system for a slip and fall accident and for refusing to provide him a low-fat diet.
Yeah, this
I'm
guy,
sorry.
man.
It's
I
just
don't like
it's
this
not
guy at
funny,
all.
but this is just so ridiculous. It's
I would want to just slap the shit out of this guy
yeah,
for more than just being a serial killer. Just he seemed like just a pain in the ass.
so ridiculous. But they all are though.
Yeah.
The ones the jury, the trials that we've read, all these guys are just doing anything in their power to get out
Yeah, they're
and just making
persuasive.
themselves look worse and worse. So yeah, it's crazy. They're all, but that's their genius and their hubris,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
guess.
I mean, they're the part of the
Third,
reason why we're doing this show.
that's right. Yep. Third and joint trial. In 2003, prosecutors entered a motion to join the Samso charges with those of the four newly discovered victims. Alcala's attorneys contested it. As one of them explained, if you're a juror and you hear one murder case, you may be able to have reasonable doubt. But it's very hard to say you have reasonable doubt on all five, especially when four of the five aren't alleged by eyewitnesses but are proven by DNA matches. In 2006, the California Supreme Court ruled in the prosecution's favor, and in February 2010, Alcala stood trial on the five joint charges. For the third trial, Alcala elected to act as his own attorney,
Of
which is
course.
never a good idea.
They always do that shit too.
Mm-hmm. He took the stand in his own defense and for 5 hours played the roles of both interrogator and witness, asking himself questions, addressing himself as Mr. Alcala in a deeper than normal voice, and then answering them. During his self questioning and answering session, he told jurors, often in a rambling monotone, that he was at Knott's Berry Farm applying for a job as a photographer at the time Samso was kidnapped. He showed the jury a portion of his 1978 appearance on the dating game in an attempt to prove that the earrings found in the Seattle locker were his, not Samso's. Jed Mills, the actor who competed against Alcala on the show, told the reporter that earrings were not yet a socially acceptable accoutrement for men in 1978. I had never seen a man with an earring in his ear, he said. I would have noticed them on him. Yeah, they would have stood out like a sore thumb.
Mm-hmm. You'd think you'd see him on the show that he would be wearing them.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Everybody would have seen him. Alcala made no significant attempt to dispute the four added charges, other than to assert that he could not remember killing any of the women. As part of his closing argument, he played the Arlo Guthrie song Alice's Restaurant, in which the protagonist tells a psychiatrist that he wants to kill. After less than 2 days deliberation, the jury convicted him on all five counts of first-degree murder. The surprise witness during the penalty phase of the trial was Tally Shapiro, Alcala's first known victim.
Huh.
Wow.
This guy's weird as shit. I'm going to play Alice's Restaurant for the jury to prove why I didn't do this.
Right. Richard Rappaport, a psychiatrist paid by Alcala and the only defense witness, testified that borderline personality disorder could explain Alcala's claims that he had no memory of committing the murders. The prosecutor argued that Alcala was a sexual predator who knew what he was doing was wrong and didn't care. In March 2010, Alcala was sentenced to the death for a third time.
Jeez. This dude, man.
Yeah. Something.
Yeah, he literally makes me angry. I mean, this guy's just annoying to me. Just the shit that he's...
Just what he's doing. Yeah.
Yeah. Without, like you said, without a care. He just, whatever.
Yeah. You don't... Just anything to save his own neck. Unidentified photographs. In March 2010, the Huntington Beach, California, and New York City police departments released 120 of Alcala's photographs and sought the public's help in identifying them, in the hope of determining if any of the women and children he photographed were additional victims, especially 900 additional photos that could be made public. Police said because they were too sexually explicit. Wow. In the first few weeks, police reported that approximately 21 women had come forward to identify themselves, and at least 6 families said they believe they recognized loved ones who disappeared years ago and were never found. None of the photos were unequivocally connected to a missing person case or unsolved murder until 2013, when a family member recognized the photo of Christine Thornton, 28, whose body was found in Wyoming in 1982. As of July 2022, 110 of the original photos remain posted online, and police continue to solicit the public's help for further identifications.
Okay.
Wow.
So you can go online and see these pictures that this dude took of these people who they think might be missing. Is that what they're saying?
Yeah, they're still there.
Hmm.
Man.
How'd this guy have time to do anything? How'd this guy have time to hold a job? I mean, he
I
jumped back
don't
and forth from California to New York, uh, killed
and
people,
points in between apparently.
went on the dating game for God's sakes. Same year he killed people. I mean,
Yeah, I don't know.
I just don't
I
have
don't know.
time to do that kind of stuff in my life, let alone think about
Mm-mm.
doing, just the activity of going out and being
Right.
out and about like this guy was. He was just had to been like coked up constantly on speed or something. I don't know.
Something.
Because I guarantee you he did a lot more shit than what we know about.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah. This is just what they know or think they
Right.
know. Additional associations, charges, and convictions. New York State. After his 2010 conviction, New York authorities announced that they would no longer pursue Alcala because of his status as a convict awaiting execution. Nevertheless, in January 2011, a Manhattan grand jury indicted him for the murders of Cornelia Criley, the TWA flight attendant, and Ellen Hover, the Roses heiress. Oh, that's the nightclub. In 1971 and 1977, respectively. In June 2012, he was extradited. In December 2012, he changed both pleas to guilty, citing a desire to return to California to pursue appeals of his death penalty conviction. On January 7, 2013, a Manhattan judge sentenced Alcala to an additional 25 years to life. The death penalty has not been an option in New York State since 2007. Washington. In 2010, Seattle police named Alcala as a person of interest in the unsolved murders of Antoinette Whitaker, 13, in July 1977, and Joyce Gaunt, 17, in February 1978. Alcala rented the Seattle area storage locker in which investigators later found jewelry belonging to two of his California victims in 1979. Other cold cases were reportedly targeted for reinvestigation in California, New York, New Hampshire, and Arizona.
So I'm saying this guy was all over the place, man.
That is, I don't know. That's mind blowing, especially back then.
Yeah, how did he have time to do this? Is what I'm trying to figure
I
out.
don't know. That's
Or the money. I mean, the guy obviously didn't have a normal day job. How did he have the money to travel like this and go jump back and was he
I don't.
rich? Did he have money to begin with? I mean,
I
he's
wouldn't think
going into
so.
like nice Hollywood homes and killing these women. Not that that means anything, but he knew the area obviously. Is he from? No, he's not from money because his parents were
No.
in Mexico.
Yeah, and his dad left, so his mom was. I don't know. He must have got some odd jobs along the way or something.
Who knows?
San Francisco. In March 2011, investigators in Marin County, California, north of San Francisco, announced that they were confident that Alcala was responsible for the 1977 murder of 19-year-old Pamela Jean Lamson, who disappeared after making a trip to Fisherman's Wharf to meet a man who had offered to photograph her. Her battered, naked body was subsequently found in Marin County near a hiking trail. With no fingerprints or usable DNA, charges were never filed, but police claim that there was sufficient evidence to convince them that Alcala committed the crime. Yeah, it's his MO.
Yeah.
That's another thing. If he was meeting these women to photograph them, they probably had money on him to pay him.
Oh, true. He probably robbed them as well.
Yep. Wyoming. Wyoming.
Here we go. Wyoming.
In September 2016, Alcala was charged with the murder of 28-year-old Christine Ruth Thornton, who disappeared in 1977. In 2013, a relative recognized her as the subject of one of Alcala's photos made public by Huntington Beach PD and NYPD. Her body was found in Sweetwater County, Wyoming in 1982, but was not identified until 2015 when DNA supplied by Thornton's relatives matched tissue samples from her remains. Alcala admitted taking the photo but not killing the woman, who was approximately 6 months pregnant at the time of her death. Thornton is the first alleged murder victim linked to the Alcala photos made public in 2010. The 73-year-old Alcala was reportedly too ill to make the journey from California to Wyoming to stand trial on the new charges.
And why waste people's freaking time with this dude, man? I mean, for God's sakes.
I mean, what are they going to do? Tack on another life sentence? I mean, he's
just kill him and get it over with.
Yeah. Alcala died of unspecified natural causes in Cochran, California on July 24, 2021 at the age of 77.
Man, this irritates me. Like, the guy got to die of natural causes. He got convicted to death 3 times.
Yeah.
Jumped around from California to New York to Wyoming.
Had a couple life sentences.
Ends up dying and we're wasting our tax money shuffling this guy around and having trials for him. They should have shot him in the head.
Should have just killed him.
And then been done with it. Oops, my gun went off. He tripped. There was an accident. He tried to fight and escape. He went for my gun.
I don't know what happened. Back then they could have done that because there were no body cams.
Yeah, they could have. They should have. I have no remorse for people like this. They should just throw them in the street and let them just get beat.
That should be the end of them.
People to death. It's disgusting that there are people that they're this sick in this world, and unfortunately, there are to this day.
Yep, absolutely.
So
ridiculous.
Yeah, strange, weird stuff. But we wanted to wrap that one and do a show on that one, and we sure did. I mean, that guy is just something else.
Yeah, I didn't realize just how messed up he was.
I think there's a lot more of this going on out there that we and people don't realize. I think there's a lot of sick people out there that they don't bring to light so much, even though to me they're just as bad as they talk about. Well, the dating game killer, but you don't really go into detail about it. But when you find out what this guy did, he was terrible.
When you dig into it, he was a sicko.
Just ridiculous, man. Ridiculous. But anyway, it was a good show. I'm glad we got to do this one.
It was. Me too. Also, there was that last show we did, the Torso Killer. Remember they had the little connection with these two.
That's right. That's where we got this from. The Torso Killer show.
Yeah, they worked together for a little bit, and we talked about that a little bit in that show. So.
Yeah, and they knew each other. I guarantee they knew.
Each other
were doing what they were doing. Got up each other.
Yep.
Anyway, another good show, my friend. Thanks for hanging out with me.
Oh yeah, man, always fun.
Everyone, thanks for listening, and remember,
monsters are real.
Did you want to say something else?
I was just going to say the email address.
Oh, go ahead.
Did we say that?
No, I'll start over. Brian's another good episode. Brian, another good episode, man. Thanks for hanging out with me.
It was, man. Always fun. Always learning. If you do have something to say about these episodes, if you have ideas, if you have theories of your own, let us know. Shoot us an email at truecrimenation@outlook.com.
Yes, get a hold of us. We'd love to hear from you.
And of course, we're on Instagram and Facebook and all that. So,
yep. All right, we'll get out of here then. Everyone, thanks for listening. And remember,
thanks again, monsters are real.